Before you open your eyes tonight, feel this, the weight of your blankets around you now, and beneath them, imagine layers of linen, wool, and flannel. Imagine the thin winter air of London in 1850 brushing your face. You're not lying on your memory foam mattress anymore. No, you're lying on a narrow iron bed frame, its joints creaking faintly each time you shift your weight. Beneath you is a mattress stuffed tight with horsehair, not plush nor forgiving, prickly in places where the ticking has worn thin, lumpy where the stuffing has settled into stubborn ridges. The sheets against your skin are cold cotton, rough woven, smelling faintly of lye soap and coal smoke that drifts endlessly through this city's air. Don't open your eyes just yet. Listen first. Hear the distant clatter of iron-rimmed wheels rolling over cobblestones far down on the street below. A dog barking somewhere in the dawn-darkened alleyways. The muffled cough of a night watchman leaning against his lamppost to catch the final minutes before shift's end. Above it all, the steady rhythm of your own breathing. The rise and fall of your chest within the confines of your flannel nightgown, buttoned right up to your chin. God forbid anyone should see your neck, or worse, your wrists, while you sleep. Even in unconsciousness, Victorian modesty remains wrapped tight around your body like a second skin. You shift your hand slightly, feeling the soft dip of your pillow, stuffed with goose feathers, and the cool bite of morning air seeping in through every gap in the window frame. London never feels fully warm. Even in the height of summer, there's a dampness to its breath, as though the river carries cold into every brick, every floorboard, every seam of your blankets. There. You hear it. Footsteps outside your bedroom door. Quick, light, familiar. Then, the gentle tap-tap of knuckles against wood. "Good morning, miss," comes a quiet voice. Low enough not to wake your parents sleeping down the hall, but strong enough to pierce the fog of your dreams. You blink your eyes open to dim gray light filtering around heavy velvet drapes. The ceiling above is plain white plaster, cracked faintly near the corners. You turn your head to see Mary standing at the door, already fully dressed despite the early hour. Her cap is pinned perfectly to her dark hair, her apron crisp over her blue wool gown. She looks as she always does at this hour, neat, composed, eyes a little tired but voice gentle. "Shall I draw the curtains, miss?" she asks softly. You give her a small nod, still too weighted by sleep to speak. She crosses to the window in 3 brisk steps and pulls back the drapes. Weak winter daylight spills in, illuminating the room in pale gray. The glass panes are streaked with soot from the countless chimneys that surround your street. Beyond them lies a city just beginning to wake, though in truth it never fully sleeps. You hear carriage wheels rolling somewhere nearby, a hawker's call drifting up from an unseen corner, the metallic screech of coal being shoveled into a cart. Your room smells faintly of bergamot oil. The small bottle sits neatly on your dressing table beside a chipped porcelain basin and a matching ewer. That sharp citrus note cuts through the heavier scent of smoke and dust, reminding you of the perfumed handkerchief tucked under your pillow, a small token of freshness against the soot-stained world outside. Mary's footsteps move across the room again. She opens your wardrobe, revealing rows of dresses in grays, blues, muted lilacs, each hung precisely with collars folded, cuffs tucked neatly inside their sleeves. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" she asks, her hands hovering over the fabric as though about to touch an altar. You take a deeper breath, feeling your ribs expand against the confines of your nightgown. Beneath the blankets, Your legs ache faintly from yesterday's piano practice. You glance down at your hands resting atop the sheets, pale, unadorned, the skin cool to the touch. Soon they will be hidden in gloves again, like secrets wrapped in kid leather. Mary waits patiently, her face turned toward you, but her eyes fixed just beyond your gaze, as propriety demands. You wonder if she woke at dawn today. You wonder if she's already polished the silver downstairs, set the fires in each grate, or prepared hot water for your mother's tea. You never ask. These small invisibilities are woven into each day, unnoticed but vital as breath. Blue today, you say finally, your voice hoarse with sleep. The deep blue day dress with the pearl buttons? Mary asks, already knowing the answer. You nod again, pressing a cold hand to your cheek to wake yourself further. Mary withdraws the dress from the wardrobe, laying it carefully across the back of a chair. The fabric glows dully in the dawn light, its folds falling heavy and dignified. You see your reflection in the small oval mirror above your dressing table, hair loose and dark around your face, eyes soft with the remnant shadows of dreams. For a moment, you see neither a Victorian lady nor yourself, just a quiet human being, warm beneath the blankets, cold where your skin touches air, wondering what this day will bring. Mary's voice pulls you back. I've laid out your chemise and stays, miss. Shall I help you dress now, or would you prefer your chocolate first? Chocolate. The thought rouses a small flicker of comfort in your chest. Warm, sweet, thick enough to coat your tongue and soothe the slight ache of morning hunger. You shift your feet beneath the covers, feeling the horsehair mattress crunch and groan under your weight. The chocolate first, please. You murmur, your voice softer than before. Mary dips a small curtsy and disappears from the room. The door clicks shut behind her, leaving you in the pale morning hush once more. You lie there for a few moments longer, staring at the ceiling, feeling the slow drum of your heart in your chest. Beyond the glass, the fog curls between rooftops and chimneys, wrapping the city in its cold gray embrace. Your life today will be ruled by countless invisible codes. What to wear, what to say, when to smile, whom to greet, how long to stay. Every hour bound by decorum, every breath measured against propriety. But for now, for these few quiet moments, you simply lie still, listening to the soft scrape of coal shovels on stone, the dull toll of a distant church bell marking the hour, and the whisper of your own slow exhale. Morning has come to Victorian London, and you are here to live it, one careful breath at a time. Mary returns carrying a small silver tray. On it sits a delicate porcelain cup filled nearly to the brim with steaming chocolate. The scent reaches you before she crosses the room. Rich, bittersweet, a promise of warmth in the cold morning. She sets the tray on your bedside table and adjusts the curtains again, letting in a little more gray light. You sit up slowly, feeling the mattress shift and sag beneath your weight. The sheets slip down your arms, exposing them to the chill. Goosebumps rise along your skin. You wrap your fingers around the warm cup and bring it to your lips, inhaling deeply before taking a careful sip. The chocolate is thick and smooth, coating your tongue with a sweetness so gentle it almost tastes bitter in the end. Victorian chocolate is not like the powdered sweetness you know today. It is stronger, darker, spiced faintly with cinnamon or nutmeg if the cook is feeling generous. Mary stands nearby, silent and still, waiting. Her eyes remain lowered. She would never stare directly at you while you drink. You wonder, as the heat trickles down your throat into your chest, what she thinks about during these quiet pauses each morning. Does she plan her day ahead? Which rooms to sweep first? Which linen to air? Which child to help dress next? Or does she let her mind drift away, just for a moment, to some memory or longing she cannot share? You finish your chocolate slowly, savoring each sip until the cup is empty and its dregs sit thick at the bottom. You set it back on the tray, feeling the slight tremor in your fingers from the returning cold. "Thank you, Mary," you say softly. "Of course, miss," she replies, dipping a small curtsy. "Shall we dress now?" You nod, pushing aside the blankets. The air bites at your legs as you swing them over the edge of the bed. Your bare feet land on the thin woven rug, placed just so to spare you the worst of the cold floorboards. Even so, the chill seeps up through the worn threads into your bones. Mary helps you stand and slips the chemise over your head. A long white cotton garment, simple, soft, from many washings, its hem brushing your ankles. Next come your stockings, rolled carefully up your calves and secured with garters just above your knees. The pressure of the garters is comforting in a strange way, a quiet reminder that your body is being bound into its proper shape for the day. Then she lifts the corset from where it lies, coiled on a chair. It is pale blue today to match your dress, lined with linen, boned with whale baleen. You raise your arms, and she wraps it around your torso, the cool fabric pressing against your chemise. You grip the edge of the washstand as she begins to lace it tight. Each tug draws the breath from your lungs in small, controlled exhalations. "Breathe out, miss," Mary murmurs, and you obey, feeling your ribs close inward as the laces tighten. Your waist contracts beneath her firm, practiced pulls, the whalebones forcing your posture upright, your chest lifted, your spine rigid. Another pull. Another. You grip the washstand harder, knuckles whitening. When she ties off the laces, you feel lightheaded from the shallowness of your breath. "Is that comfortable, miss?" she asks. You give a small nod, though comfortable is not quite the word for it. It is familiar, secure. The tightness is a prison, yes, but also a kind of protection. Within these stays, your body becomes unassailable. No curve left uncontrolled, no softness left uncontained. Mary helps you sit on the chair again, the corset forcing you to keep your back straight, shoulders drawn back. She lifts the first petticoat and slides it over your head, the fabric rustling as it falls to your ankles. Then comes the second, slightly stiffer, adding bulk to your hips, and the third, embroidered along its hem in small white flowers only you will ever see, its weight a reminder of the care stitched into every layer of your daily armor. Then she lifts the crinoline, a cage of thin steel hoops suspended by cotton tapes. She holds it above your head, and you duck slightly as she lowers it into place around your waist. The hoops brush against your petticoats, settling into their familiar bell shape. You shift on the chair, hearing the soft metallic creak as the crinoline expands around you, giving your skirts the fashionable silhouette of the season. Your feet disappear beneath its circumference, as though your body ends just below the knees, transformed from human into sculpture. Finally, Mary lifts the day dress from its resting place and unfastens the hooks down its back. You stand carefully, balance trained by years of wearing such contraptions, and raise your arms again. The blue fabric slips down over your chemise, corset, petticoats, and crinoline, enveloping you in its cool, heavy folds. Mary fastens each hook with quiet precision. The bodice is tight, its seams cut to fit your newly cinched waist perfectly. The sleeves are narrow, ending in small cuffs just past your wrists. A row of tiny pearl buttons runs from throat to waist, each gleaming softly in the dim morning light. "Gloves or mittens today, miss?" Mary asks, holding both options in her hands. "Gloves, you say," remembering the rule. A proper lady never shows bare hands in public. Mary nods and helps you slide them on, her fingers warm against your cold skin. The gloves are kid leather, dyed pale gray to match the trim of your bonnet. They mold themselves to your fingers like a second skin, soft yet firm, sealing away another part of your flesh from the world. As she smooths your sleeves down over the glove cuffs, you catch sight of yourself in the mirror. A woman stands there, unfamiliar and yet entirely known. Her waist impossibly small, her bodice flawless, her skirts blooming around her in sculpted perfection. Her hair is pulled back into a severe bun, every strand pinned flat against her scalp. Her face is pale in the morning light, lips unpainted, eyes calm. You blink at her slowly. She blinks back. "Will you be wearing perfume today, miss?" Mary asks, her voice breaking the silent reverie. You shake your head. Perfume is vulgar now, ever since Queen Victoria banned the heavy musks of the previous era. Instead, you reach for your small bottle of bergamot oil and dab a tiny drop onto your handkerchief. Clean, sharp, citrus, enough to suggest purity, not enough to suggest seduction. "Thank you, Mary," you say quietly, your voice sounding distant to your own ears. She curtsies again, gathering the discarded nightgown, stockings, and chemise to take away for laundering. As she leaves, you remain standing before the mirror, staring at the woman reflected there, encased in steel, bone, cotton, silk, leather. You wonder just for a moment what it would feel like to run barefoot through the fog-damp grass outside, hair loose, skirts hiked up in both hands, nothing between your skin and the morning air. The thought flutters away almost as soon as it comes. You turn from the mirror, gathering your skirts carefully in both gloved hands. The day is waiting. So many rules to follow, so many breaths to measure. But for now, you take one last quiet inhale of bergamot and coal smoke and step forward into the silent house, your crinoline rustling like a whisper of thunder beneath you. The corridor outside your bedroom is quiet, dimly lit by the low winter sun filtering through leaded windows. Your slippers glide across the worn carpets as you make your way down the stairs, each step measured, cautious, controlled. Your skirts rustle softly around your ankles, brushing against the smooth banister. The crinoline cage beneath them shifts with each movement, creaking faintly like the ribs of some sleeping creature bound to your hips. At the bottom of the stairs, the smell of breakfast reaches you. Eggs, bacon, toast, kidney pie. Rich scents filling the hallway, mingling with the ever-present undercurrent of coal smoke that seeps into every crack of this house. You hear the muted clink of cutlery and the rustle of newspaper pages. Servants move unseen beyond doorways, their steps hushed, their voices low. This is their busiest hour, though they remain invisible to the family unless needed. You pause outside the dining room door, pressing a gloved hand to your corseted waist, taking a shallow breath. The laces still bite into your ribs, but the constriction has settled into a familiar tightness. Fashion's embrace, as your mother calls it. You step inside. The dining room is long and narrow, paneled in dark oak. Heavy curtains are drawn halfway open, letting in strips of pale gray light that illuminate dust motes drifting lazily in the still air. At the far end of the long table sits your father, his back straight, face hidden behind his newspaper. He lowers it just long enough to nod in your direction before lifting it again, the rustling pages filling the silence like dry leaves. Your mother sits at the opposite end, already fully dressed for the day in a slate gray gown with a high lace collar. Her hair is coiled into its usual severe knot at the nape of her neck, held in place with jet pins that glint faintly in the dim light. She doesn't look up as you enter, her pen scratching across thick cream paper as she writes her morning correspondence. You cross the room slowly, each step a careful choreography to keep your skirts from tangling beneath you. You perch on the edge of your chair, feeling the wooden seat pressing up through the folds of petticoat and crinoline. Your corset forces your spine upright, shoulders pulled back, chin lifted. Any slouching would wrinkle the seams of your bodice, and no proper lady would allow such disorder. A footman appears at your elbow, silent as a ghost, and places a plate before you. Eggs softly scrambled, a curl of crisp bacon, half a grilled tomato, a slice of toast cut diagonally into two neat triangles. Everything arranged with precision, as though the cook herself had placed each piece with tweezers. You pick up your fork in your gloved hand, the thin kid leather making your grip clumsy. You remove your gloves only for meals with close family, and even then, only if you are eating something that risks staining them. Eggs and toast are safe enough. You peel the gloves off slowly, finger by finger, folding them into your lap beneath the tablecloth. Your mother clears her throat softly, still not looking up from her letter. "Remember, Jane," she says, her voice cool and measured. "Mrs. Hartley's daughter is newly engaged. You must be sure to offer your congratulations when you call today." "Yes, Mother," you reply, taking a small bite of egg. The food tastes good, buttery and warm on your tongue, but your corset prevents you from taking more than delicate mouthfuls. Each swallow presses uncomfortably against the steel and baleen binding your ribs. "But do not ask about the wedding date," your mother continues, dipping her pen once more. "That would be presumptuous." "Yes, Mother," you say again, forcing a small smile that she cannot see. Your father turns a page of his newspaper, the sound loud in the silence. The clock on the mantel ticks steadily, each second marking time with ruthless precision. You chew and swallow, each movement small and ladylike. The toast crunches faintly between your teeth. The eggs cool quickly on your plate, steam curling away into the gray morning air. You glance towards your father's end of the table. The paper trembles slightly in his hands as he reads, though whether from age or the morning chill, you cannot tell. Once, when you were very small, you had run down this table's length barefoot, chasing a spun sugar sweet your brother had rolled away with his spoon. You had squealed with laughter, your feet slapping against the polished wood. Your father had lowered his newspaper then, revealing eyes wide with shock. Your mother had gasped, her tea sloshing in its cup. "Proper young ladies do not run, Jane," she had said, voice trembling with suppressed fury, "especially not barefoot." You had been sent to your room without breakfast that day. Now you sit silent and composed, toes pointed neatly inside your slippers, ankles hidden beneath layers of cloth and steel. You take another bite of egg, tasting nothing. The footman appears again, offering you tea. You nod, and he pours a thin stream into your cup, the liquid steaming faintly in the dim light. You lift it carefully to your lips, feeling the warmth spread through your chest as you sip. Weak black tea, bitter with a hint of iron from the chipped pot it was brewed in. No sugar this morning. Sugar is expensive, and your mother considers it a frivolous indulgence when used outside of entertaining. Your brother is not here today. He has left early for his club. Your father informs your mother without lowering the newspaper. She nods absently, continuing to write. You drink your tea in silence, your eyes fixed on the pale steam rising from its surface. The fog outside thickens against the window panes, turning the world beyond into shifting gray. The gas lamps in the street flicker weakly, their flames smeared and wavering behind the glass. Your corset tightens each time you breathe, pressing up against your lungs, making your heartbeat feel louder in your chest. You place your hand flat against your bodice, feeling the faint thrum beneath your gloved palm. For a moment, you wonder what it would feel like to take a deep breath, a truly deep breath, without steel and whalebone preventing your ribs from expanding. But that is not for today, perhaps not ever again. Your mother folds her letter with crisp precision, sealing it with a small stick of wax she keeps in her reticule. She looks up at you finally, her eyes dark and appraising. Do not forget to practice your piano after your morning call, she says. Mrs. Fairchild may request a performance this evening. Yes, mother, you reply, lowering your gaze to your plate. The eggs have gone cold. The toast has softened under the damp air. You take one final sip of tea and set your cup down gently on its saucer, the porcelain clicking faintly. Your father rustles his newspaper once more, then folds it neatly and sets it beside his plate. He stands, smoothing his waistcoat over his stomach, and nods once in your direction. Your mother tells me you will be calling on Mrs. Hartley today, he says, his voice low and gruff. Yes, Papa. Mind your manners. Speak little. Listen much. Yes, Papa. He nods again, then turns and walks from the room, his footsteps fading down the corridor. Your mother rises next, gathering her correspondence and her reticule. She pauses beside your chair, her gloved hand brushing your shoulder lightly. You look pale this morning, she says, her voice softening just a fraction. Perhaps you should rest after your piano practice. We cannot afford for you to fall ill before the Fairchild dinner. Yes, mother, you whisper, turning your face slightly towards her touch, though it has already disappeared. She leaves the room, her skirts whispering across the wooden floor. The footman appears again to clear the plates, stacking them silently onto a tray. You remain seated for a moment longer, staring at your empty teacup, feeling the corset press against your ribs with each shallow inhale. Another day has begun, another day of measured breaths and perfect posture, another day of proper words spoken at proper times, with proper smiles and proper silences. And somewhere in the fog outside, Thomas Fairchild's carriage is rattling over the cobblestones, carrying him through the gray streets of London toward his own breakfast table, his own silent rituals, his own careful, proper life. You wonder, as you stand and gather your skirts in gloved hands, what he will think when he sees you this afternoon. And you wonder what you will think of yourself, standing there in your blue dress, smiling with lips that feel suddenly very tired. But there is no time to wonder long. The clock is ticking. Mary is waiting outside the dining room to brush your hair again before you leave. The morning calls must be made. The world must be greeted. And your reflection must remain flawless until night falls once more. You step from the room into the quiet hall, your crinoline rustling around you like a captured breeze. Mary stands waiting in the hall with your bonnet and cloak draped carefully over her arms. She offers them to you wordlessly, and you slip your arms into the cloak's heavy velvet, feeling its weight settle across your shoulders. She lifts the bonnet and ties its wide ribbons beneath your chin, her fingers deft and practiced. The bonnet's brim narrows your field of vision, forcing your gaze downwards into the muted world framed by blue silk and lace. "Your card case, miss," she says, placing the small, silver-edged case into your gloved hand. It feels cool against your palm, smooth and reassuring. Your visiting cards are inside, printed in elegant script with your name. You have checked them twice already this morning, ensuring no corners are bent, no ink smudged. A torn or stained visiting card would signal carelessness, a flaw in your social presentation. Mary steps back to examine you one last time. She smooths an imaginary wrinkle from your skirts, adjusts the ribbons of your bonnet, and nods once, satisfied. "You look perfect, miss." You offer her a small smile, though it feels brittle at the edges. The word "perfect" presses down on your chest as heavily as the corset's whalebones. Your mother descends the stairs, her own cloak fastened, bonnet perched high to frame her severe coiffure. She gives you a brief, approving glance before turning towards the door. "Let us not keep Mrs. Hartley waiting," she says, her voice already adopting the crisp brightness she uses for social calls. She nods at Mary, who steps forward to open the front door. The cold morning air rushes in, biting at your cheeks and filling your lungs with fog-damp chill. You step outside carefully, your crinoline shifting around your legs with each movement. The street is quiet, the gas lamps still flickering weakly against the dawn. Across the way, a milk cart rattles over cobblestones, its horse snorting puffs of steam into the gray light. Your mother sets a measured pace down the street, not too fast. A lady never hurries. Not too slow. Dawdling suggests idleness. You match her steps precisely, your boots clicking softly against the pavement, skirts swaying around your ankles. Each step is small and deliberate, your back straight, eyes lowered modestly beneath your bonnet brim. The fog curls around your feet and drifts through the wrought iron fences lining the pavement. You pass men tipping their hats in greeting, to which you offer the slightest of nods without ever meeting their eyes. You pass other women in muted gowns and dark bonnets, each carrying their own card cases and their own silent lists of invisible rules. Mrs. Hartley's house is only a few streets away, its red brick facade rising from the fog like a ship from the sea. You pause at the bottom of the steps, while your mother ascends first, each footfall quiet and dignified. You follow, lifting your skirts slightly to keep them clear of the damp stone. The butler answers the door almost before your mother knocks, bowing low and stepping aside. You hand him your card case with gloved fingers, and he removes 2 cards, one for you, one for your mother, placing them on a small silver tray balanced on his palm. "This way, Miss Madam," he says softly, turning to lead you through the dim entry hall. Your heels click against polished wood, echoing faintly against the high ceilings. Portraits line the walls, stern men in black coats, pale women in lace collars, all watching silently as you pass. He ushers you into the drawing room. Sunlight filters through lace curtains, catching dust motes that dance in the golden beams. The room smells faintly of lavender sachets tucked between sofa cushions and the warm metallic scent of the coal fire burning low in the grate. Mrs. Hartley rises from her seat as you enter, her ample frame draped in plum-colored silk. Beside her, her daughter Charlotte sits with folded hands resting lightly on her lap. Charlotte's eyes are lowered, her cheeks tinged pink with the shy glow of recent engagement. "How kind of you to call," Mrs. Hartley says, her voice deep and pleasant, though her smile never quite reaches her eyes. She gestures to a small sofa opposite her armchair. "Please do sit." You and your mother curtsy together, bending in perfect unison, before crossing to the sofa. Sitting gracefully in a crinoline is a learned skill. You perch carefully on the edge, keeping your back straight so your skirt's steel hoops don't tilt awkwardly against the cushions. Your mother sits beside you, arranging her skirts with quiet efficiency. "We were so pleased to hear your happy news," your mother says to Charlotte, her voice warm but appropriately subdued. "Thank you, madam," Charlotte murmurs, her gaze flickering up just long enough to meet yours, before dropping again to her folded hands. "Mr. Edwards is very kind." That is all she says. In Victorian London, engagements are spoken of with the same delicate brevity as illnesses or deaths. To ask about feelings or plans would be intrusive, vulgar curiosity. The conversation drifts onwards to safer shores. The weather, unseasonably mild, though the fog lingers. Last Sunday's sermon, uplifting, though the vicar droned somewhat. A piano recital attended by mutual acquaintances. Charming, though perhaps the Schubert piece was a touch too dramatic. You listen, nodding where appropriate, offering soft murmurs of agreement. Your mind wanders only once when Charlotte's engagement ring catches the light. A thin gold band with a small cluster of pearls. Modest, appropriate. You wonder, fleetingly, what sort of ring Thomas Fairchild might choose if he were ever to... No. You push the thought aside before it blooms too brightly in your chest. The clock on the mantel ticks steadily, each second marking your visit. Morning calls last exactly 15 minutes, not 14, not 16, 15. Anything longer risks appearing idle, as though you have nothing better to do with your day. Anything shorter is abrupt, suggesting you do not value your hostess's company. As the minute hand nears the quarter mark, your mother gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. You place your gloved hands in your lap and rise in one smooth movement. Your mother follows. "It was so lovely to see you both," Mrs. Hartley says, rising with the dignity of a ship lifting anchor. "Thank you for receiving us," your mother replies with a small curtsy. You mirror her, bending just so, feeling the steel hoops of your crinoline press against your shins. Charlotte rises too, her eyes meeting yours for a brief moment. In them, you see not pride or happiness, but something like resignation, or perhaps simply weariness. You wonder if your eyes look the same. You and your mother leave the drawing room, guided back down the silent hallway by the butler. He opens the front door, and cold air rushes in once more, slicing through the lingering lavender warmth. You step outside, gathering your skirts against the breeze. The fog has thickened, curling in silent waves around the railings, blurring the world into soft gray. "That went well," your mother says as you descend the steps together. "Charlotte looked well, didn't she?" "Yes, mother," you reply, your voice quiet. In Victorian conversation, well is the highest praise one can offer. You walk down the street together, your footsteps muffled against the damp stones, your skirts brushing softly around your ankles. The fog swallows the sound, leaving only silence in its wake. And beneath the silence, your heart beats steadily against the tight confines of your corset, measuring time not in minutes or calls or polite murmurs, but in the quiet, secret hope that somewhere in this gray city, someone is thinking of you too. The fog clings to your cloak as you walk home with your mother, weaving around your ankles and dampening the hem of your skirts. Each step feels heavier than the last, weighed down not just by crinoline and velvet, but by the quiet fatigue settling into your bones. Victorian life is a performance without intermission. Even silence demands perfect posture. At home, Mary is waiting just inside the front hall. She takes your bonnet and cloak with careful hands, smoothing the dampness from the velvet before hanging them on their hooks. You thank her softly and step into the drawing room, your skirts rustling like dry reeds in the wind. The room is warm after the chill outside. Coal smolders in the grate, casting a gentle glow across polished mahogany tables and thick patterned carpets. You perch on your usual chair by the window, picking up your embroidery hoop from the side table. A rose pattern today, delicate pinks and soft greens stitched onto fine linen. Your needle slides in and out of the cloth with mechanical precision, each stitch identical to the last. Outside, fog curls around the wrought iron railings, swallowing the street beyond in a blur of gray. Your mother sits opposite you, her own needlework balanced on her knees. She sews steadily in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the ticking clock on the mantel and the quiet hiss of coal shifting in the grate. Finally, she speaks without looking up. "I saw Mrs. Fairchild yesterday," she says, her voice casual, though you hear the watchful note beneath it. Her son has returned from Oxford. Your needle hesitates for just a breath before continuing its steady rhythm. The rose on your linen remains unchanged, its petals blooming silently under your fingers. "How nice," you say, your voice carefully neutral. She mentioned he asked after you. Your cheeks warm slightly at this, though you keep your gaze fixed on your work. You remember Thomas Fairchild well, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, the gentleness with which he guided you across the dance floor last season, careful never to tread on your feet. "Did he?" you murmur, adjusting your thread. "That's very civil of him." Your mother glances up briefly, assessing your composure. Satisfied, she returns to her stitching, her thin lips pressing into a faint smile. The rest of the morning passes in quiet tasks. Needlework gives way to reading, a volume of improving essays on moral character. You turn the pages slowly, absorbing little of the text, your mind wandering instead to imagined scenes of Mr. Fairchild arriving at your door, bowing over your gloved hand, asking about your piano practice or which composer you favor. At precisely 11:15, Mary reappears, carrying your outdoor gloves and bonnet once more. "Mrs. Hartley's call is complete, miss," your mother says, rising smoothly. "Now we must prepare for tea with your cousin Emily." You nod, closing your book carefully, marking your place with a thin silk ribbon. Mary ties your bonnet beneath your chin, adjusts the brim to frame your face just so, and helps you into your cloak again. Emily arrives promptly at 4, her cheeks flushed pink from the cold, eyes bright beneath the brim of her green felt bonnet. She looks almost cheerful as she enters the drawing room, curtsying to your mother before leaning forward to kiss your cheek lightly. "Jane, you look pale," she whispers. "Have you been out all morning?" "Just a call on Mrs. Hartley," you reply softly, smiling. Tea is served in delicate porcelain cups decorated with violets. Tiny sandwiches sit on silver trays beside crisp biscuits. Emily chatters brightly about her week, a piano lesson, a new embroidery pattern, rumors of a ball being planned by the Penbrooks next month. You listen, nodding politely, interjecting with quiet murmurs of agreement, each word, each smile, each tilt of your head precisely measured. Conversation with Emily is easier than with acquaintances. She is family after all, and expectations are softened slightly within these walls. But still, the rules remain. You do not interrupt. You do not boast. You do not share feelings that are too large to be folded neatly into polite conversation. After tea, Emily departs with a final squeeze of your gloved hand. You watch from the drawing room window as she steps into her family's carriage, the footman closing the door behind her with a soft thud. The carriage wheels crunch over gravel as it rolls away into the fog. The house feels quieter after she leaves, the silence settling over the rooms like a comforting shawl. You practice piano for an hour, your fingers moving obediently over the keys as you run scales and exercises before shifting into Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words. The melody floats through the room, warm and lilting, wrapping itself around the ticking of the clock and the quiet crackle of coal in the grate. When you finish, Mary appears silently from the doorway. "Dinner dress, miss?" she asks, already holding the garment draped over her arm. You nod, rising from the piano stool. The dinner dress is slightly more ornate than your day dress, made of dark plum wool with delicate jet beading along the cuffs and collar. Mary helps you undress, unfastening hooks down your bodice, easing the crinoline and petticoats from around your waist. The corset remains, of course, though she loosens it slightly to allow you marginally deeper breaths through dinner. Fully dressed again, you descend to the dining room, where your father and brother are already seated. Your brother James smiles as you enter, raising his glass in greeting. "Jane," he says lightly, "you've survived another day of calls and tea and embroidery. Remarkable stamina." You smile at him as you take your seat, your skirts billowing softly before settling around the chair. Dinner passes in quiet conversation, your father discussing business prospects with James, your mother speaking of upcoming charity meetings. You contribute when required, offering gentle observations about the sermon last Sunday or the merits of Bach's preludes compared to Mendelssohn's songs. But your thoughts drift elsewhere, back to the conversation with your mother that morning. Thomas Fairchild, back from Oxford, asking after you. When dinner ends, your father retires to his study with James for brandy and cigars. You and your mother return to the drawing room, where you resume your embroidery by the flickering light of a single oil lamp. The silence is companionable, the ticking clock counting each measured minute. At 9, Mary appears again, her eyes bright with quiet excitement. "Miss," she says softly, "Mr. Fairchild's footman is at the door. He brings a message." Your needle freezes mid-stitch, and your heart gives a small, startled leap against your corset stays. Your mother looks up sharply, her eyes narrowing. "Well?" she says calmly, though you hear the faint tremor of anticipation in her voice. "Do not keep the man waiting, Jane." Mary hands you a folded note on thick cream paper. Your name is written in a strong, confident hand. "Miss Wilson, my mother requests the honor of your company for dinner tomorrow evening. With respect, Thomas Fairchild." You read the words twice, heart thudding softly in your chest. Your mother's lips curve into a small, satisfied smile. "It seems, my dear," she says quietly, "that Mr. Fairchild is wasting no time." You fold the note carefully, pressing its edges flat with trembling fingers. Outside, the fog presses against the windows, dimming the glow of the street lamps to faint halos of yellow light. Tomorrow evening, dinner at the Fairchilds'. A chance to see Thomas again, to hear his voice, to feel his gaze on you across the table. You place the note into your sewing basket and take up your needle once more, though your stitches are uneven now, each loop pulled tighter than the last. The clock ticks steadily on, counting down the hours until tomorrow, and in the quiet of the drawing room, lit only by the flickering lamp and the glow of banked coals, you allow yourself one small smile, hidden behind the delicate folds of your embroidery hoop. Morning arrives with a pale gray dawn. The fog lingers close to the ground, curling around the garden hedges and climbing the brick walls in silent tendrils. Mary wakes you before the sun is fully risen, her quiet knock blending into your dreams until her soft "Good morning" miss draws you gently back into the waking world. Today is not like other days. Today is dinner at the Fairchilds'. Mary helps you wash quickly in the cold air of your room, the ceramic basin filled with water just warm enough to sting your chilled fingers. She lays out your walking dress for the morning hours, deep burgundy wool, warm and dignified, and sets aside your evening gown for later preparations. Your mother insists on a quiet morning. After breakfast, you practice piano for 2 hours instead of 1. The Mendelssohn piece you've chosen is lyrical but controlled, each phrase rippling under your fingers with a restrained beauty. Your mother sits nearby with her mending, listening carefully. "Again," she says softly when you finish. Your tempo drifted during the second phrase. You begin again, pressing the ivory keys in perfect succession until your fingers ache faintly with the effort to remain graceful. When practice ends, Mary helps you change into your walking cloak. The air outside bites at your cheeks as you step into the street, your skirts brushing softly around your ankles. You and your mother walk to the park, moving at a measured pace along the gravel paths. Bare trees reach their skeletal branches into the silver sky. Other ladies stroll nearby, nodding politely as you pass, their gloved hands tucked neatly into fur muffs, their bonnets framing pale, composed faces. Your mother's voice is low and steady beside you. "Remember, Jane, at dinner tonight, you will be seated according to rank. Do not appear surprised by your placement, whatever it may be." "Yes, mother." "You must appear neither proud nor offended. Your expression must remain calm at all times." "Yes, mother." She glances at you briefly, her eyes softening just a fraction. "You are a sensible girl. I know you will do well." When you return home, preparations for the evening begin in earnest. Mary runs a bath for you, adding a few drops of rose oil to the steaming water. The bathroom is cold, despite the small fire flickering in the grate. You step into the bath quickly, gasping as the heat wraps around your chilled skin. For a few fleeting moments, the steam softens the ache in your shoulders and the faint pressure of corset lines along your ribs. But the warmth cannot last. Soon you are shivering again, as Mary helps you out, wrapping you in thick towels before she begins the dressing ritual. Tonight's gown is pale blue silk, with delicate white lace trimming the neckline and sleeves. The corset is laced even tighter than usual, your waist narrowed to near impossibility, your breath confined to shallow sips of air. The crinoline is wider, its hoops creaking softly as Mary arranges your petticoats over it, each layer adding weight to your silhouette. Finally, the gown slips down over your body, its folds rustling with a faint sheen in the lamplight. The neckline is lower than your day dress, revealing your collarbones and the tops of your shoulders in a way that feels strangely exposed, though still within the bounds of propriety. Mary arranges your hair into an elaborate style, pinning small silk flowers among the curls at the back of your head. She dusts your face lightly with rice powder to soften the shine of your skin. No rouge, of course. Only actresses and women of questionable virtue paint their cheeks so brazenly. When she is finished, she steps back to admire her work. "You look beautiful, miss," she says softly. You turn to the mirror. A woman gazes back at you, serene, composed, elegant. Her waist impossibly small, her skirts blooming around her like the bell of a pale blue flower. Her eyes look larger beneath the carefully pinned curls, her lips soft and natural. She looks exactly as a proper Victorian lady should, exactly as society demands. You feel her heartbeat beneath all that silk and steel, and know she is you. Downstairs, your father waits in his formal coat, waistcoat buttoned tight, watch chain gleaming against the black wool. He nods with quiet approval when you descend the stairs, your gloved hands lightly brushing the polished banister for balance. The carriage ride is silent, the rhythmic clatter of hooves on cobblestones filling the space between you and your parents. Your mother sits upright beside you, her gloved hands folded neatly in her lap. Your father stares out the window, his expression unreadable. The Fairchild's townhouse glows with light as your carriage draws up to the curb. A footman in dark livery opens the door, bowing low as your father steps out first, then turns to offer you his hand. You gather your skirts in both hands and step down carefully, your feet finding the cold paving stones with practiced grace. Inside, the entrance hall is warm and bright, gas lamps flickering in glass sconces along the walls. A maid takes your cloak, revealing your evening gown to the assembled guests. The butler announces your family in a deep, measured voice. "Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, Miss Jane Wilson." All heads turn as you enter the drawing room. You feel your cheeks flush faintly under so many eyes, but keep your expression composed, offering a small curtsy to those who incline their heads in greeting. And there he is. Thomas Fairchild stands near the hearth, his evening clothes impeccably tailored, his dark hair brushed back smoothly from his brow. His eyes meet yours across the room, and for a moment, just a moment, the careful mask of propriety slips from his face. You see something there, something soft and warm and hopeful. He crosses to you, bowing perfectly. Not too deep to appear obsequious, not too shallow to suggest disrespect. "Miss Wilson," he says, his voice deeper than you remember, resonating gently through your chest. "How pleasant to see you again." "Mr. Fairchild," you reply, lowering your gaze just slightly, letting your lashes veil your eyes. "I trust Oxford agrees with you." A hint of a smile curves his lips. "It does, thank you. Though London has attractions Oxford cannot claim." Before you can respond, other guests begin to arrive, and Thomas steps back with quiet propriety. The drawing room fills with soft conversation and the delicate clink of glasses. You notice Charlotte Hartley standing beside her fiancé, Mr. Edwards. They keep a respectful distance from each other, their conversation muted, their expressions calm. Only the faint flush in Charlotte's cheeks betrays her happiness. Dinner is announced, and the guests begin to form into pairs according to rank. Thomas offers his arm to an elderly lady in an impressive turban of twisted silk. You are paired with a middle-aged gentleman you do not know, who bows stiffly before offering you his arm. The dining room dazzles with polished silver and fine china, the table lit by flickering candlelight and crystal chandeliers overhead. You are seated halfway down the long table, your place neither particularly high nor disgracefully low. Thomas sits several seats away across the table. Victorian etiquette dictates you speak primarily to the gentleman on your right and left, so you focus on your neighbor. A kindly older man, who asks polite questions about your piano practice and the weather in Hyde Park this morning. You glance at Thomas occasionally, catching glimpses of his profile in the candlelight, the strong line of his jaw, the thoughtful curve of his mouth. Once, your eyes meet across the table, and he looks away quickly, a faint color rising in his cheeks. Your own chest feels warm despite the cold air seeping through the window panes. You lower your gaze, smiling softly to yourself. The dinner progresses in quiet, ordered courses. Each dish is served with hushed precision. Conversation remains safely within the borders of polite society. No politics, no religion, no talk of money or illness. Only art, music, travel, and weather. Safe topics to fill the silences between bites of roast fowl and spoonfuls of clear consommé. As the candles flicker and the clock ticks steadily on, you feel the tension ease from your shoulders. Here, surrounded by soft voices and warm light, the world feels temporarily gentler. And yet, beneath the calm, your heart beats faster each time Thomas's eyes find yours, even for just a moment across the gleaming silver and candlelit shadows. After dessert, a delicate lemon syllabub served in etched crystal glasses, the ladies rise from the table in a rustle of silk and petticoats. Mrs. Fairchild catches the eye of the highest-ranking female guest and inclines her head gently. This is the signal. Chairs scrape softly against polished floorboards as each woman stands, murmuring polite words to her dinner companions. You gather your skirts carefully, feeling the crinoline shift and sway around your legs like a captive bell. The gentlemen remain behind for port and cigars, as tradition dictates. You catch a final glimpse of Thomas as he rises slightly to bow in farewell to the departing ladies. His eyes meet yours across the candle-lit table. There is a quiet regret there, swiftly hidden behind his composed smile. The women file back into the drawing room, arranging themselves into small conversational groups around the low tables set with fresh flowers and silver trays of sweets. The room smells of lavender polish, warmed wool, and the faint citrus scent of bergamot oil dabbed behind gloved wrists. Mrs. Fairchild circulates, ensuring each guest is comfortably seated, her smile gracious and bright. "Miss Wilson," she says suddenly, turning towards you with a gleam in her eye. "Would you be so kind as to favor us with a piece tonight? We have all heard of your musical accomplishments." Your stomach tightens beneath your corset. This is the moment you knew might come, yet still it flutters like a trapped bird inside your ribs. You bow your head modestly. "If you wish it, Mrs. Fairchild," you say softly, "though I am sure there are more accomplished musicians present." "Nonsense," she replies, gesturing towards the pianoforte standing in polished splendor by the bay windows. "We would be honored." You rise, smoothing your skirts with trembling fingers as you cross the room. The pianoforte gleams beneath the lamplight, its ivory keys reflecting small yellow halos. You feel the eyes of every woman in the room upon you, weighing your posture, your grace, the steady composure of your expression. As you arrange your music on the stand, though you've long since memorized the piece, a quiet voice speaks at your shoulder. "May I turn pages for you, Miss Wilson?" You glance up to see Thomas standing there, his evening coat immaculate, his dark hair brushed to a quiet sheen. His eyes hold yours for a moment, and your breath catches softly in your chest. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, keeping your voice even despite the warmth blooming beneath your stays. "That would be most helpful." He nods and steps to your side, folding his hands neatly behind his back as he waits. You sit carefully on the piano stool, arranging your crinoline so it falls gracefully around your ankles. The room is silent now, expectant. You place your fingers lightly on the keys, feeling the cool smoothness beneath your gloved skin. Then you begin. Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words fills the room in gentle, rippling waves. The melody flows from your fingers with quiet confidence, each note balanced and poised, no phrasing too indulgent, no dynamics too dramatic. A proper Victorian performance is never showy. Emotion must be suggested only subtly, in small hesitations or softened chords, never in overt passion. Thomas turns the pages with practiced precision. Once, his hand brushes yours. The contact is brief, accidental, but it sends a shiver up your arm that makes your breath catch faintly in your throat. Still, your playing does not falter. Each note falls where it should, each chord balanced perfectly. When you finish, the room erupts into polite applause, delicate gloved hands clapping just loud enough to show appreciation, not so loud as to suggest vulgar enthusiasm. You rise from the stool, turning to acknowledge the small crowd with a modest curtsy. "Beautifully played," Thomas murmurs as he offers his hand to help you step away from the piano. His palm is warm and steady against your gloved fingers. Your touch is exquisite. You glance up at him, your eyes meeting his. For a brief, breathless moment, neither of you speaks. Then you lower your gaze quickly, aware of the other ladies watching from their seats. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild," you whisper, stepping back to allow another guest to take your place by the piano. The conversation resumes around the drawing room as you return to your seat. Tea is served, along with small, delicate cakes decorated with crystallized violets. You accept a cup from a maid, wrapping your hands around its warmth, though your fingers still tremble slightly from playing. Across the room, Thomas speaks with Mrs. Fairchild, then with an elderly gentleman near the fireplace. But you feel his gaze flick towards you every few minutes, each glance like a quiet touch in the crowded room. When his eyes meet yours, he smiles softly, and your chest tightens with an ache that is half hope, half fear. The gentlemen rejoin the ladies shortly after, the scent of cigars clinging faintly to their evening coats. Your father finds your mother, bowing slightly as he leans down to murmur some quiet observation about the port. Other men gather around small groups of women, the conversation shifting to books, paintings, safe topics that keep everyone within the comfortable boundaries of propriety. Thomas moves towards you slowly, stopping to greet each guest along the way. When he reaches your side, he bows just deeply enough to show respect without ostentation. "I enjoyed your performance immensely, Miss Wilson," he says, his voice low. "Mendelssohn, was it not?" "Yes," you reply, your voice catching faintly as you meet his gaze. "His Song Without Words in E major." "A beautiful choice," he murmurs. "Your playing, it has great feeling. An appropriate restraint, of course." You smile at this, feeling warmth spread beneath your skin. His words are a compliment hidden within another compliment, a Victorian puzzle box of propriety and genuine admiration. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild." He glances briefly towards his mother across the room, who watches you both with quiet satisfaction. When he looks back at you, his eyes soften. "I understand you enjoy painting as well?" he asks. Merely as an amateur, you say, lowering your gaze to your folded hands. "Watercolors mostly, flowers, landscapes." "I would be very interested to see them sometime," he says. Then, catching himself, he adds quickly, "With your mother's permission, of course." You nod, your heart thudding softly against your corset stays. Before you can respond, another guest approaches to speak with Thomas, and he bows to you again before stepping away. The evening continues with more music, quiet card games, and polite conversation drifting through the lamplight and fading candle glow. Your father catches your mother's eye, giving a small nod. It is nearly 11. Time to leave. You stand as your parents gather their cloaks. Thomas is nearby, speaking with Mr. Edwards. As you pass, he turns, bowing once more. "Until we meet again, Miss Wilson," he says softly. "Good evening, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice calm, though your hands tremble slightly within your gloves. Outside, the night air is cold and damp. The fog wraps around your carriage as your father helps you inside. As the door closes and the wheels begin to turn, you catch one last glimpse of Thomas standing on the townhouse steps, watching as your carriage rolls away into the silent, gaslit streets of London. You settle back into your seat, feeling the warmth of his gaze linger on your skin, long after he has disappeared into the fog. Morning comes too soon. You wake with the lingering heaviness of dreams still clinging to your chest. For a moment, as your eyes flutter open to the dim winter light, you forget where you are. Then you hear the distant clatter of carriage wheels beyond the window and smell the faint mingling of coal smoke and bergamot oil, and you remember. Victorian London. Your quiet, ordered world. Mary enters softly, bringing with her the scent of polished wood and fresh starch. She curtsies, then sets your morning chocolate on the bedside table. "Mr. Fairchild is calling this afternoon, miss," she says, her voice carefully neutral, but her eyes betray a quiet, restrained excitement. Your chest tightens around a flutter you can't quite suppress. You nod, lifting the cup to your lips, feeling its heat seep into your cold, trembling fingers. The chocolate tastes richer this morning. Or perhaps it is just that everything feels sharpened by anticipation. After breakfast, your mother insists you practice piano again. Your fingers move obediently over the keys, though your mind drifts away from each note. To the drawing room, the soft flicker of lamplight across his face, the way his hand brushed yours when he turned the page at the pianoforte. By noon, the household feels restless. Mary lays out your pale blue day dress and brushes your hair for longer than necessary, arranging it into a soft, simple chignon at the nape of your neck. "You look lovely, miss," she whispers, securing the final pin. You catch your reflection in the mirror. Your cheeks are slightly flushed, your eyes bright with something you cannot name. At precisely 2:00, the doorbell rings. The chime cuts through the quiet of the house like a single clear piano note. You force yourself to take a slow, careful breath, feeling the whalebone stays of your corset press firmly against your ribs. Mary appears at the door, her face composed. "Mr. Fairchild is here, miss. Your mother requests you join them in the drawing room." Your feet feel light and heavy all at once as you rise, smoothing your skirts with trembling hands. You step carefully along the hallway, each movement deliberate, every heartbeat measured against the ticking grandfather clock in the entryway. In the drawing room, your mother sits by the fireplace, her sewing resting lightly in her lap. Across from her, Thomas rises as you enter. He bows deeply, his eyes never leaving yours. "Miss Wilson," he says softly, "it is very good to see you." "And you, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice calm despite the wild drumming beneath your stays. He sits when your mother gestures for him to do so, folding his gloved hands in his lap, his hat resting on the small table beside him. For a moment, there is only the quiet crackle of a coal in the grate and the ticking of the mantel clock. Then he clears his throat softly. "I have come today, Mrs. Wilson," he begins, turning first to your mother as propriety demands, "to ask if I might speak with Mr. Wilson for a few minutes, if it is convenient." Your mother inclines her head gracefully. "I believe Mr. Wilson is in his study. Mary will show you through." Mary reappears as if summoned by thought alone, and Thomas rises, bowing to your mother and to you before following her from the room. You watch him go, the back of your neck prickling with heat and fear and hope all tangled together. Your mother's eyes remain on her sewing, but her lips curve into the faintest smile. "We shall see," she murmurs, as though to herself. The minutes pass with agonizing slowness. You return to your embroidery hoop, though your fingers fumble over the tiny stitches, each loop too tight or too loose. Your mother says nothing, her own hands moving with silent efficiency over the hem of a lace handkerchief. Then you hear the door open again. Your father's heavy steps enter first, pausing by the fireplace to stand beside your mother. You do not dare look up. Your eyes remain fixed on your trembling stitches. "Jane," your father says finally, his voice rougher than usual, "Mr. Fairchild has something he wishes to say to you." You lift your gaze slowly to see Thomas standing just behind him. His face is pale, his eyes wide and bright in the dim firelight. He steps forward as your father and mother withdraw to the far side of the room, close enough to remain chaperones, far enough to grant the smallest illusion of privacy. Thomas takes a shaky breath. "Miss Wilson," he begins, then stops, swallowing hard. "Jane." Your name on his lips feels like a touch. "I have spoken with your father, and he has graciously granted me permission to address you formally." He shifts slightly, his gloved hands clasping and unclasping before him. "From the first moment I met you, I admired your kindness, your composure, your quiet strength. And these past weeks, they have only deepened my regard." His voice trembles just slightly. "I know that marriage is not simply affection. It is duty, companionship, mutual support. I believe we could build a life together that is honorable and good, and, I hope, in time, happy." He pauses, drawing a long, careful breath. "Jane Wilson, would you do me the very great honor of becoming my wife?" The room seems to shrink around you. The fire pops softly in the grate. The clock ticks on steadily, and somewhere in the street outside, a horse stamps its hooves against the cobblestones. But within you, there is only a vast, ringing silence. Your hands tremble in your lap. You feel the tightness of your stays pressing your breath into your throat. Hear your pulse roaring faintly in your ears. "Mr. Fairchild," you begin, your voice breaking softly around his name. You stop, swallowing down the tight ache in your chest, and begin again. "Thomas, I would be honored." The relief that floods his face is almost painful to witness. His shoulders sag just slightly, his lips parting in a shaky smile. "Thank you," he whispers, his eyes shining with emotion he cannot fully conceal. "Thank you." He steps forward, and, in a movement that feels shockingly intimate in this world of constant restraint, takes your hand in his. His glove is warm against yours, the pressure gentle but firm. I have brought something for you." From his coat pocket, he withdraws a small velvet box. He opens it to reveal a ring, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, set in a delicate gold band. It was my grandmother's, he says softly. She was a woman of great kindness. I hope you might carry some of her strength with you. He slides the ring onto your finger. The cool metal settles against your skin with surprising weight. A solid, beautiful promise. Your mother clears her throat softly from across the room, and Thomas steps back, bowing deeply once more. Your father nods in quiet approval. We will inform the rest of the family this evening, he says. For now, congratulations to you both. Thomas's eyes meet yours again, and in them you see a flicker of something beyond propriety, beyond duty. A quiet, unspoken hope that perhaps, within this world of rules and roles and whispered decorum, something gentle and true might grow between you. And as he smiles, you feel a small, answering warmth bloom in your chest. Perhaps this is the beginning of something more than simply a proper match. Perhaps this is the beginning of your own quiet happiness. The days that follow blur together in a rush of quiet excitement and relentless preparation. Your engagement is announced in the newspapers, a small notice among many. Mr. Thomas Fairchild, eldest son of Mr. Henry Fairchild of Fairchild & Sons Banking House, is engaged to Miss Jane Wilson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Wilson of Grosvenor Square. Neat, factual, restrained, like everything else in your world. Visiting cards arrive by the dozen, each bearing polite congratulations in elegant script. Your mother keeps them stacked neatly in a small ivory box on the parlor side table. She consults them each morning to arrange your calls and responses. Your trousseau is begun at once. Seamstresses arrive daily, their arms laden with bolts of silk and wool, lace trims and pearl buttons. They measure you in silence, chalk lines drawn against your stays and pinned along skirt hems. Morning dresses, afternoon walking costumes, evening gowns, nightgowns, dressing robes, shawls, gloves, slippers, each garment meticulously planned and fitted, then packed away with lavender sachets into cedar-lined chests. In quiet moments between fittings, you practice your piano pieces and write small, restrained letters to friends and relatives. You choose your words carefully, neither too eager nor too indifferent. Everything in moderation, everything proper. Thomas calls twice a week, each visit supervised by your mother. He sits across from you in the parlor, his hat resting on his knee, his gloves folded neatly in his hands. Your conversations drift through safe topics, books, music, travel, the upcoming season. But beneath each question and answer lies something unspoken: curiosity, hope, the quiet desire to know who you might become together, once the rules allow freer words and unguarded glances. One afternoon, he brings you a small, leather-bound volume of poetry. I thought you might enjoy Tennyson, he says softly as he hands it to you, his fingers brushing yours for just a moment. Page 43, in particular. That evening, alone in your room, you turn to the marked page. The poem is about music, its underlined line reading, "The heart of the listener is moved by the skilled hands of the player." You press the book to your chest and close your eyes, feeling your own heart stir beneath its cage of whalebone and cotton. Finally, the wedding day arrives. Morning dawns pale and cold. Fog drifting along the streets in silent gray waves. You wake before dawn, your room lit only by the flickering lamp Mary carries in. She helps you wash and dress in your chemise and stockings before your wedding gown is brought out of its muslin wrappings. The dress is white silk, pure and luminous in the early light, its wide skirts trimmed with lace and pearl beading. The veil is Brussels lace, its patterns so fine they look like frost traced across glass. Mary buttons each tiny pearl along your bodice with trembling fingers, tears brimming in her eyes. "You look like an angel, miss," she whispers, stepping back to admire you. You turn to the mirror and see a stranger gazing back, pale and luminous, her waist cinched impossibly small, her shoulders bare beneath the sheer veil, her eyes wide with something too big to name. Your father waits in the hall, resplendent in formal morning dress, his watch chain glinting against his waistcoat. He offers you his arm, and you place your gloved hand lightly upon it, feeling the solid strength of him beneath the fine wool. As he leads you down the stairs, he leans slightly towards you. "You've made us proud, Jane," he murmurs. "I trust he will be good to you." You squeeze his arm softly in response, unable to speak past the ache in your throat. The carriage ride to the church is silent. Your veil flutters slightly with each jolt of the wheels, the horse's hooves clattering against frost-hardened cobblestones. The streets are lined with silent rows of brick houses, their windows glowing faintly with lamplight. At the church steps, Thomas waits. He turns as you arrive, and for just a moment, the composure slips from his face. His eyes widen, his mouth softens into something like wonder. Your father leads you forward, placing your hand gently into Thomas's. His grip is warm, trembling slightly as he guides you up the stone steps. The ceremony passes like a dream, vows spoken in quiet voices, a gold ring slipped onto your finger, the vicar's blessing falling over you like warm rain. When Thomas lifts your veil to kiss your cheek, his breath trembles softly against your skin. The first touch of his lips is fleeting but careful, a promise hidden within restraint. The wedding breakfast is held at your parents' home, tables laid with delicate sandwiches, small iced cakes, glasses of champagne poured and raised in toasts. You sit beside Thomas at the head table, his hand resting lightly against yours beneath the white linen cloth. "Are you happy?" he asks softly, leaning close enough that you feel the warmth of his breath along your ear. "Yes," you whisper, unable to keep the smile from your lips. "Yes, I think I am." After the final toasts are given and the guests have drifted away into the early winter dusk, you change into your traveling dress, a deep moss green wool with velvet trim, your bonnet pinned securely over your curls. The journey to his family's country house in Kent will take several hours, and night will have fully fallen before you arrive. The carriage is quiet as it rattles through the darkening streets, gas lamps flickering past in blurred golden halos. Thomas sits opposite you, watching you with an expression you cannot quite read. Wonder, relief, hope, fear. When the carriage finally turns off the main road onto a long, tree-lined drive, you catch your breath softly. The house rises from the darkness ahead, not a grand estate, but a handsome country home of warm red brick, its windows glowing with welcome. Smoke curls from the chimneys, drifting up into the clear, star-pricked sky. Thomas steps down first, then turns and offers his hand to help you descend. His grip is steady, strong. As you place your feet onto the frosted gravel, you feel the earth solid beneath you, the night air cool and sweet in your lungs. He pauses, looking down at you with eyes full of quiet wonder. "Welcome home," he whispers. And as you walk with him towards the softly glowing doorway, your skirts whispering over the frozen ground, you feel something within your chest loosen, uncoil, and settle. Perhaps this is what happiness feels like. Quiet, steady, a hand warm against yours in the winter dark.